unification fights out there for you. There's also Terence Crawford, who Eddie Hearn says he wants to make that fight if Crawford wins on August 3rd. What's your preference?
Most definitely, let's make it happen, you know. That's what I want. You know, I want the big names. You know, Terence Crawford, anybody else in that weight that got a big name, let's get it.
Jaron Ennis reports say that Ennis has caught up with Terence. But Crawford asked him if he was going to fight this Saturday, and Ennis successfully protected his IBF welterweight title, ITK, over David Avanesian. As soon as Ennis stopped Avanesian in the 5th round, the boxer looked worn out and, at the doctor's suggestion, turned to face the corner. Ennis said that the fight was stopped by the judge before the 6th round started. "I knew I was too strong for him. I should have listened to my corner a little more, jabbed a little more, got to that body a little more, and taken more angles. It's okay." With his first title defense, Ennis moved to 30-2-0 and solidified his place as one of boxing's most promising young stars. 29 of his fights have finished in knockouts for him. After a year-long hiatus born in Philadelphia, Ennis was back in the ring in front of about 14,000 people from his hometown. He said, "I did feel a little off. That's okay. I did get the job done. Fighting and winning in his hometown felt great," he said. Ennis mentioned that he would be interested in competing against Terence Crawford even if it meant increasing his weight from his present position, 147 pounds to 154 pounds. "I want the big names," he said. This match was Avanesian's final try at winning a world championship. He dropped to May 130. Ennis burst out of the gate with rapid jabs, keeping Avanesian on the defensive despite Avanesian getting in a right hook. Ennis stayed ahead early on by working the body and avoiding attacks with skill. Avanesian's momentum was suddenly halted by a low blow, a stinging right uppercut sending him to the canvas in intense pain with 5 minutes to recover. The crowd grew restless with anticipation as the fight restarted. Ennis continued the relentless attack. Scorecard reads Ennis 10, Avanesian 9. Ennis is unloading, but Avanesian is retaliating now. Avanesian is currently stalking his target and throwing a range of hits. Outstanding talks. Avanesian 18, Ennis 20. Ennis asserts his dominance with impressive power and volume, yet Avanesian proves resilient, refusing to yield as Ennis intensifies his attack. He refuses to relent, engaging fiercely from the ropes, trading powerful uppercuts amidst Avanesian's determined resistance. Ennis 30, Avanesian 27, showing a battle of resilience and determination in the ring.
It was dope, you know. It was a great experience coming out to, walking out in front of my friends and family, supporters at this big arena. You know, it was a blessing. You know, I was taking it all.
Ennis keeps his composure despite Avanesian relentless pursuit. He flaunts his vast skill set, punishing Avanesian's body with precision. Avanesian attempts punches, but struggles to make clean hits. Ennis adds a touch of showmanship to the fight. Scores. Ennis 40, Avanesian 36. Ennis swings wide with a powerful right but loses balance, tumbling to the mat. Avanesian cheers briefly as Ennis drops to one knee. Avanesian counters with a thunderous uppercut only to find himself briefly off balance. It's a slippery exchange in the ring. Avanesian pressed us forward, determined to shift the balance. Suddenly, Avanesian goes down. He lands a good punch but takes an even bigger one in return. Yet he rises quickly, and the furious exchange continues. Ennis fires a barrage miraculously. Avanesian stays upright. Ennis leads with 50. Anonan is close behind with 44. The conflict has ended based on suggestions from the ringside doctor. The referee ruled about Ennis triumphs via TKO.
You know, a good comeback fight. I ain't fighting a year, so felt good to be back in the ring. Felt good to be home. You know, the crowd was loving it. You know, I'm glad to be.
Now the clamor builds for a fight between these two conquerors of Ava. Could Ennis beat Crawford? His emphatic victory has even caught the eye of His Excellency Turki Alalshik, who eagerly anticipates Ennis facing Crawford in the light middleweight division. But Oscar de la Hoya has his doubts, predicting Ennis might not only face defeat at the hands of the Nebraskan southpaw, but also from the formidable Virgil Ortiz Jr. Ennis faced his inaugural title defense, seizing the IBF gold after Crawford's departure. Crawford, now eyeing the light middleweight division, aims to pave a path towards a coveted showdown with Canelo Alvarez set for August 3rd at the Riyadh season card in Los Angeles. Crawford will face WBA champion Israel Madrimov. Meanwhile, Virgil Ortiz Jr., initially set to clash with Tim Chu on the same day, saw their bout cancelled instead. Ortiz Jr. gears up to face WBC's interim light middleweight champion Serhii Bohachik on August 10th in Las Vegas. His Excellency Turki Alalshik took to Twitter to personally thank Jaron Ennis and Eddie Hearn of Matchroom Boxing following their victorious bout against David Avanesian. Then he said, "I'd love to see Ennis in a fight with Crawford at weight 150 for soon. Oscar de la Hoya doesn't seem sure that Jaron Ennis has a shot. He firmly thinks that fighters like Bud Crawford or Virgil Ortiz Jr. would easily outmatch the Philadelphia." Curiously, his opinion sparked a swift response from His Excellency Alalshik, who simply remarked, "Let's wait and see." In recent times, the boxing world eagerly anticipated the clash between Terence Crawford and Jaron Ennis. Despite sharing the same weight class, their paths never quite converged. In the ring, Crawford, as the reigning champion, faced mandatory offenses, including a possible bout with Ennis, the interim IBF title holder. However, contractual commitments, especially a rematch clause with Errol Spence Jr., posed significant hurdles to making this highly anticipated matchup a reality. IBF, unable to move forward, eventually chose to strip him of their belt, shifting him from unified champion to a once undisputed title holder. Subsequently, with no Spence Jr. rematch in sight, Crawford chose to venture into a higher division. Speculation swirls that this move places him closer to his ultimate goal, a showdown with Canelo Alvarez. Eddie Hearn holds on to hope that a showdown between Jaron Ennis and Terence Crawford could materialize. Addressing the media after the fight, he revealed a FaceTime conversation with His Excellency Turki Alalshik allegedly mentioned to the chairman of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority his readiness to forward the Crawford fight contract. Hearn is optimistic that after Crawford overcomes the Madrimov challenge, there might be a chance for a showdown with Ennis. The British promoter doesn't seem sure about a Canelo Alvarez vs Crawford bout in the near future. Therefore, a match against Boots Ennis could realistically happen by early 2025.
So much. I'm gonna keep putting on beautiful shows. Next fight I'm gonna be even better. Just keep tuning in, keep coming to support me. I'm gonna keep bringing them knockouts.
Although the result of Jaron Ennis stopping David Avanesian in under 5 rounds underscored Ennis's superiority, the bout between them was far from unnecessary or futile. Instead of being just another bout, this fight turned out to be exactly what Jaron Ennis needed at this point in his professional journey for several compelling reasons. Firstly, it granted him the chance to headline an event in his hometown of Philadelphia, evoking memories of a time when local fighters drew substantial crowds to their bouts. Secondly, despite his burgeoning reputation, Ennis is still in the process of forging both his career and his public image. And third, Avanesian, while not quite on Ennis's level, proved to be a brave and active opponent who pushed Ennis to showcase his best skills and ignite excitement among fans. Ennis's 5th-round stoppage of Avanesian checked more boxes than it left unchecked, keeping his IBF welterweight title and extending his unbeaten record to 320. Ennis displayed both dominance and composure. His impressive win not only solidified his status, but also positioned him prominently for a possible showdown with Terence Crawford possible later this year as Crawford prepares for his bout against WBA super welterweight champion Israel Madrimov on August 3rd. Ennis's fearless showing keeps him firmly in competition. Ennis said during his post-fight interview, "Terence Crawford and anybody else that's a big name can get it." Currently, there's a prevailing notion that the backers of Crawford vs Ennis are more eager for the bout than the fighters themselves, who will eventually step into the ring. Eddie Hearn, Ennis's new promoter, appears particularly enthusiastic, while Turki Alalshik, handling much of the financial and promotional efforts in the Middle East, is clearly excited about the prospect of Crawford and Ennis facing off in the ring in today's boxing scene. One obvious truth remains: Turki Alalshik gets what he wants, whether it's the sensation of a promoter's reassuring handshake or fighters setting aside their egos to settle scores in the ring. His impact shapes the landscape for better or worse.
And if he thinks that performance was off, well, the world of boxing better be very, very afraid. Because that was Boots Ennis, 1 year out, dismantling a world-class fighter with ease in there, having fun, doing what he does. And the future for Boots Ennis is the future of boxing. That's what this young man is. He's very humble. You never hear him say too much. I'll say it, I think he beats everyone. I think this is a special fighter that needs to be tested against the best in the world, and that's our job now, activities.
The readiness of Ennis for Crawford isn't a simple yes or no. Certainly, with 32 professional fights under his belt, and now at a season 27 years old, He looks prepared, yet beyond boxing circles, Ennis remains somewhat of a mystery despite his undeniable talent. A matchup with Crawford might not create the same buzz as Crawford's 2023 clash with Errol Spence. Unlike that natural long-standing rivalry, Crawford vs. Ennis feels more hastily assembled, perhaps driven more by necessity and by real anticipation. Crawford at 35 can't afford to be selective or wait forever, having spent much of his career in relative obscurity. He knows the urgency of securing defining victories now. Ennis, as a potential opponent, could certainly contribute to that pursuit. Ennis displays undeniable skill, evident in his decisive win over Avanesian tonight with a stunning left to the jaw while retreating. This shot not only showed his quality, but also highlighted his killer instinct and ability to finish, traits shared with Crawford, who displayed similar prowess against Spence last year. Both fighters captivate audiences not just with their skill, but also with their ability to end fights decisively, contrasting with technicians whose dominance often lacks flair despite occasionally taking more shots than desired, as Ennis did tonight against Avanesian. Such times only fueled their opponent's false confidence before delivering the telling blow. Crawford knows the psychological warfare of boxing, dismantling opponents both physically and mentally throughout, all while ensuring the spectacle remains captivating. Back in April, promoter Hearn said this of Crawford vs. Ennis: "I rate Terence Crawford, but we're ready to roll the dice, baby, and we believe we've got the edge." That's not strictly true, of course, for there is only one aside in that fight, as if such a thing matters, but Hearn did at least make slightly more sense in the lead up to Ennis vs. Avanesian when saying this: "Terence Crawford vs. Jaron Ennis is the best fight in boxing, unquestionable." While the debate over its significance persists, few matchups at 154 pounds could rival Crawford vs. Ennis. From a technical perspective, the potential for bigger, more thrilling fights in the sport remains, but this bout stands out. Whether it ignites excitement before and during the event is uncertain yet. Such doubts seem trivial if Turki Alalshik, the ubiquitous promoter, pushes for this clash expected sooner rather than later after the battle. It seemed notably tuned in, swiftly turning to social media to emphasize what he perceives as a shift in the narrative surrounding Ava. Previously criticized for his defensive tactics, he now believes Boots is finally receiving due credit, even from his promoter Hearn, for defeating a truly world-class opponent. Crawford said world-class fighters now hunt the double standards. Crazy promoter Hearn quickly responded to Terence Crawford's enigmatic social media comment. Hearn recounted his FaceTime conversation with His Excellency following Ennis' victory over Avanesian, where they discussed the timing of the Crawford bout for Boots. According to Hearn, Boots instructed His Excellency to forward the contract for the Crawford fight. The Crawford-Boots fight, according to Matchroom promoter Hearn, is expected to take place in the first quarter of 2025 if His Excellency decides to greenlight the Crawford vs. Ennis showdown following Terence's fight with WBA junior middleweight champion Israel Madrimov on August 3rd. It promises to be a colossal event. Hearn claims he doesn't believe Canelo Alvarez will face Crawford, but if it turns out to be the case, Terence will be let down since he had wanted that match. Replying to Terence Crawford's comment on social media, Hearn stated that Crawford's remark was ridiculous, stating that Boots is the best welterweight in the world and challenging anyone to name a better welterweight than Boots.
Response for Terence Crawford and him chiming in on saying that Boots, or alluding to the fact that Boots may not be a world-class fighter.
Well, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Boots is the best welterweight in the world. I mean, tell me a better welterweight than Boots Ennis. Impossible. There isn't one. So, he's the best welterweight in the world.
Crawford seemed to be alluding to Avanesian's recent elevation to the status of a world-class fighter, possibly due to Hearn promoting him this week as a formidable rival for Boots. Ennis IBF welterweight title defense. Hearn further stated that he had just finished a FaceTime call with His Excellency, who asked whether they would arrange the Crawford fight and his fight. Hearn recounted that Boots replied with "send the contract." He added that if Terence Crawford gets past Madrimov on August 3rd, he will have the chance to see if Boots is a world-class fighter. Hearn expressed his belief that if Canelo Alvarez doesn't fight Terence Crawford, which he doesn't think will happen, Boots Ennis will likely face Terence Crawford in the first quarter of 2025, given he beats Madrimov.
When we just finished a FaceTime with His Excellency, who asked me, will we make the Crawford fight? And the answer, Boots said to him, send a contract. So Terence Crawford, if he gets past Madrimov, if he gets past matchmak on August 3rd, will have the chance to see if Boots is a world-class fighter. And I think if Canelo Alvarez doesn't fight Terence Crawford, which I don't think he will, I believe you're going to see Boots Ennis against Crawford if he beats matchmak in 2025.
Moreover, Eddie Hearn believes that Jaron Ennis showcased his skills against David Avanesian on Saturday, focusing on his own performance rather than attempting to surpass Terence Crawford's record-breaking knockout from 2 years ago. Ennis aimed to outpace Crawford's previous showing against Avanesian. Ultimately, Ennis achieved his goal by halting the match in the 5th round, successfully defending his IBF welterweight title at Philadelphia's Wells Fargo Center on December 10, 2020. Crawford stopped Avanesian with 6 rounds, and he did it while wearing blowout gloves. "I think it was the way that he did it. Bear in mind that he'd been out for a year," said Eddie Hearn to the media in the ring against Avanesian Boots. Ennis found himself absorbing more hits than normal, willingly engaging in close quarters combat favored by the challenger. Hearn continued, "With all due respect to Avanesian, he really played with him. He didn't let himself get hit, but he had no respect for what was coming back. He was trying to have fun in there. He was trying to get him out of there rather than play to his skills." Ennis allowed Avanesian to control the fight's tempo, opting for an inside battle throughout the full 5 rounds. Despite this concession, Ennis showed his superiority, emerging victorious in the end. Hearn said he was trying to be bold, but also he'd been out of the ring for a year. "I think he felt that his work was quite average. I said if that was an average effort, you just destroy Avanesian. It was so one-sided. I know Avanesian was trying. He hit a few bits and pieces. Avanesian hit Ennis with a number of strong blows that would have easily put out many fighters with a weaker chin. Ennis looked to have been through a lot, as his lips were swollen from the blows he had taken during the fight." According to Hearn, the trouble is away from Stenonis and away from Barrios. "I want to see him try, because when you have someone like Shocker fighting these guys is a little bit of a waste of time. Who wants to see 120-108 3 times for a one-sided beatdown?" The issue is that Boots Ennis will be tested by Mario Barrios and Iman Stanionis, if anything, because they aren't heavy punchers. They will be easier for him to beat than Avanesian. Ennis will face his toughest test if he steps up to the 154-pound division. While Brian Norman Jr., the WBO welterweight champion, stands out as a potential rival for Boots, Ennis remains tied to top rank, probably earmarked for Teofimo Lopez, their prized fighter. So it's okay to get active, but you've got to create the great fights so they can define their legacy. These great fights, said Hearn. Ennis needs to step up to the 154 and 160 pounds divisions if he's serious about facing tougher opponents, remaining in welterweight, and shooting for undisputed titles against lackluster champions like Stenonis and Barrios. It won't prove his true mettle. Jaron Ennis made a bold statement on Saturday evening, eyeing Terence Crawford as his next challenge. Crawford's willingness to give 27-year-old Ennis's wish to face him next or at any time in the future doesn't seem hopeful. Crawford faces a major challenge in his upcoming bout, with rumors swirling about a potential clash with Canelo Alvarez in 2025 to unify the super middleweight division. Ennis made a savvy move by challenging Crawford, aiming for a headline-worthy moment. However, Crawford has his sights set on a lucrative showdown with Canelo Alvarez, prioritizing a big payday that he's not willing to jeopardize by going into the ring with Boots. Ennis didn't sail easily to victory tonight against Avanesian. It wasn't a straightforward dismantling. Instead, Avanesian posed major challenges throughout. None of the rounds were clear-cut, with Ennis absorbing considerable hits. His relief was obvious when the doctor intervened to halt the fight.
Miranda with LatinoSports.com. Congratulations to you, Boots. Congratulations to Bozy. Did you find yourself at any point during the fight, or even just coming out to the ring, in awe of the amount of fans, the love, and the support that you were receiving?
Yeah, it was dope. You know, it was a great experience coming.
Hearn described Boots Ennis as the future of boxing, emphasizing his humility and adding that Ennis doesn't often speak up about himself. Hearn asserted his belief that Ennis can beat anyone, calling him a special fighter who needs to be tested against the best in the world, which he stated is now their duty. Hearn emphasized that activity is important, expressing concern that too many great young fighters are too inactive. He stated the need to get Ennis back in the ring by October or November and expressed a desire to return to Philadelphia, hoping to bring the biggest fights and unification bouts to the city. Hearn boldly predicted that Ennis would remain a prominent figure in boxing for a long time.
Is key. Too many of these great young fighters are too inactive. We must get him back out October, November. We'd love to return to Philadelphia. We've got to bring the bigger fights here, the unification fights. He's going to be around for a long time.
Make sure to check out some of our other videos on the screen if you like this one.